Hi there, and welcome to the Off the Record panel on tips and advice for getting the most out of streaming your live performance. I'm Robert Blair. I'm a freelance journalist and editor of Mill magazine, and I've recently also comprised like a guide on that subject for Off the Record as well. And I'm here with some esteemed guests. If you want to introduce yourselves, Zoe, we'll start with you.
Okay, hi, I'm Zoe. I'm a singer-songwriter from Glasgow. I've been playing live for a number of years now. I went on tour with Tidelines last year, which was a great tour. It was good fun. And yeah, throughout lockdown, I came out with my new EP called Gradual Move. And I also did a live stream bingo event on every Saturday night on Instagram Live, which was a lot of fun.
Cool. Alex, do you want to go next?
Yeah, so I'm Alex. I run High Tide, which is a video production company, and we're based in Edinburgh. And we work with a range of brands and musicians, and yeah, a whole range of different companies making video content for them.
Cool. You can fight amongst yourselves as to who wants to go first for Tidelines introduction.
Well, I'm Robert. I'm the singer with a band called Tidelines. We went on tour with Zoe last year. You might have heard. Yeah, during lockdown, we released an album, and so we had loads of different experiences of streaming in order to promote that. This is Ross.
Yeah, I'm Ross, and I play keyboards in the band Tidelines. And yep, I helped Robert do some live streaming during lockdown.
And he went on tour with Zoe last year.
So, as we've said, this is all going to be fixated on live streaming, particularly at a time where it's now went from something that was optional to now something that's basically imperative for anyone that's doing music to keep the sort of profile high and stuff like that. So, obviously, everyone had to adapt pretty fast. So, I just wanted to sort of start off by getting everyone's personal experience of live streaming and what worked for them and basically how they came to it. So, Zoe, do you want to start again?
Yeah, sure. Well, I hate live streaming. It's really scary, especially when you're someone that comes from playing live shows and that's what you've been doing. To have that kind of no audience interaction is really scary. But right now it's super necessary. So I did a couple of live stream gigs at the very start of it, and yeah, just found it very, very difficult, really hard. And thankfully, my manager Michael and I actually had this idea well before COVID was even in our imaginations to do some kind of thing revolving around bingo, because I'm actually a big fan of going to the bingo in real life. So it kind of worked out in a bit of a kind of in quite a good way, because suddenly we had this excuse to go live and to do something a bit different that didn't necessarily it wasn't necessarily like another live stream gig, because especially at the start that was like really common and lots of people were doing it and it was a bit difficult to get heard. So doing this bingo night was actually yeah, a bit different. So yeah, every Saturday night we would go live and play a game of bingo. Someone would win a prize, and yeah, people got to kind of know me because it was word bingo rather than numbers bingo. So it was maybe words to do with me or songs of mine or things that I like or foods that I like, etc. And maybe at the end, if we had time, I'd play a little tune and it would probably go wrong and I'd forget my words. And, you know, it would just be more having fun and having an audience interaction rather than everybody has to sit and watch my show kind of thing. So it was good because it kind of helped me stay active, especially since we had this EP coming out. It meant that every week I could update people on what was happening with the EP and yeah, get the word out there and be really active on social media. So yeah, it was super, super helpful.
Cool. And Alex, how has this kind of bled into you with your like clients and stuff that you've been working with?
Yeah, well, it completely kind of changed what we offered, particularly during lockdown and still now. So we obviously still make content ourselves and offering that for clients. But one thing we've been helping people do is advise them on, the kind of streaming and how to do that and how to make stuff, particularly from home, look nice and not look horrendous. So that's been really interesting. And yeah, like we've been given tips around like trying to plan your content and making sure you've got a good background, how to make sure your like basic tech like your phone and stuff can be used in the best way possible. So yeah, really keen to give some tips on that throughout today's session.
Excellent. And Tidelines, what about yours?
Yeah, well, what you said there, Robert, about live streaming becoming imperative basically at the start of lockdown was totally true for us, particularly because we had an album coming out. Our second album came out on the 1st of May, and we'd already announced that it was coming out, and we'd booked a tour it started off in Denmark and then finished off in, like, went around the whole UK and finished off in Scotland. And that was, I mean, obviously the traditional route when you've got a new album, to get out there, spread the word, but most importantly to let people hear the new material live rather than just on the record. And that obviously just went and overnight like everyone else. And so live streaming was basically our only option to get the word about the album out and to let people hear the stuff. So we sat down. Ross will probably talk a wee bit more about this and after I finish here, but we sat down and thought, well, how are we going to really do this and get as much attention as possible towards the fact that we've got this release coming out? And we thought, although our tour's been cancelled, live streaming kind of gives us the opportunity to be a bit imaginative of where we go virtually. So we started something called the Tidelines Virtual World Tour. And basically every night from the comfort of my own living room in Fort William, I'd gone home to the Highlands for lockdown. So I was in my mum and dad's house in Fort William. And from there, with the help of Ross, basically, who was sitting in Glasgow, we went live 10 nights every night in the lead up to the 10 nights leading up to the album release. And I would sing a different song from the album, which proved to be a nightmare because we thought there was 10 songs in the album, and once we'd started, we realised there was 11. But anyway, that was what we did, and we had a bit of fun with it. And each night we could see the engagement levels go up, and it actually ended up being a pretty good fun and quite a successful way actually of promoting the album in the end.
Great. See, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. Like, even already, we've already had two different perspectives that people have came from it from. So I just kind of wanted to start on the brass tacks of it with like the tech standpoint. Like, obviously there'd be different things that would work for different people. So like, what sort of worked for you individually with your clients or with yourselves, and what would you sort of advise as the way to tackle it? Everyone wants to start.
Yeah, well, I think like when we saw the COVID thing coming in and the tour started getting cancelled, we immediately started Googling everything, how do you live stream? I bought a wee dongle thing from Amazon, like a webcasting thing, so I could hook up my camera. I was OBS. There was a free program online called OBS. You can download it, and tried to get to grips with that. Found that quite complicated. Googled it some more, and we came across this website called b.live. So we just ended up using that, and yeah, it's just a kind of simple online thing where you can add in your content like videos and pictures. So we just used that to host the first thing that we did, which was the virtual world tour. But also with Robert being up in Fort William, we thought we would try and make the production as well. We kind of made it all a bit tongue-in-cheek, but at the same time we wanted the audio to be good. So we posted Robert up a 2-channel audio interface, a microphone. So he was kind of plugged up into the interface with his guitar, and he had a mic. So even though the whole visual aspect of it was a bit tongue-in-cheek, it still sounded good. I think that was the important thing for us, was to have something that didn't sound glitchy or sound like it was coming through a laptop. So Yeah.
Definitely, yeah. Alex, based upon everything that you've been doing, like what sort of tips and tricks have you found that can make something look more professional and stuff like that? Or
Yeah, finding helping getting people to use a window has been really, really important, or just like a really big light source, and just to make sure they're actually properly lit. So making sure you face the light, and you can actually use like a sheet or a blind to put over the window, and that just actually makes it just a bit softer and just makes it look a bit more professional. And then, as you guys say, having actually decent sound. If if you're talking, obviously you guys know a lot about sound, but making sure you've got lapels rather than using the audio off your phone if you can help it. And then I suppose as well, making sure that you've got an interesting background. People are absolutely loving being nosy in this period, and I think if you can just have like something a bit interesting that shows just a little bit about you, in your background, then people really love it. So that was kind of our really big tips. And actually, another really good thing about lighting that we found is getting people to use fairy lights in their background. It just brings the background up a little bit too. So I'd say those are our kind of main technical tips for sure.
that's cool. Zoe, last time we spoke, you described yourself as an iMovie wizard after the experience of having to do this stuff. So what kind of tips would you have?
Yeah, it's I would totally agree. It's the thing about backgrounds is that I've watched so many live streams where you can see somebody's pants in the background, or somebody's washing, or like they've got the main light on, which is a crime at the best of times in my book. So it is just about having a good backdrop. I would sit here. I actually should have brought my bingo backdrop out, but I had a wee board that said Zoe Graham bingo that I had to write backwards and put some fairy lights around it, and maybe a couple of pot plants, or just make it a little bit homely and a bit interesting. And the thing is that thankfully, because it wasn't a gig that I was doing each week, it was just talking to the camera. I meant that I didn't necessarily need to think too much about audio, but I do think that whatever you have accessible, totally use. But if you can't access a mic and an iRig or whatever, I think that I would totally forgive bad audio quality or trouble with audio if you've put effort into the backdrop. I think that it's about it all, and we don't necessarily always need like a crisp, clean audio quality. As long as you've obviously put effort into it, I'm more than happy with that.
Definitely, and that's actually the perfect segue into what I was going to say next, because obviously at this time where everyone's flocking to live streams just to be able to have some sort of semblance of a connection to their audience and stuff like that, to the point that maybe we've reached a sort of oversaturation where it's hard to stand out. So based upon your own personal experiences and just going forward, what would you say is a good way to ensure that you do stand out amongst the crowd?
I would say regular content is a real key one. I think, these algorithms play into the fact that people, having short but regular pieces of content. And so I think if you can be doing it regularly, even if they aren't perfect every single time, but you're getting into the swing of it as you do it, I think that's a real advantage to try and get noticed on a regular basis and engage with your audience.
Yeah, I would actually totally agree with Alex there, that I don't think you'd necessarily need to go live all the time either. I think it's just about being active, because I've seen quite a lot of bands just kind of fizzle out sadly throughout this because they've not maybe been posting as much because there isn't really much to post about. But I would totally agree with that. And what I found as well is just doing something different. Even if you are doing a live stream gig, a good friend of mine, Zoe Graham, puts on these amazing streamed shows every Wednesday night, and each week she'll do a giveaway of a little drawing that she's done that week for people who like and share the video. So that's something to draw people towards it. Obviously, like the algorithm seems to, each week we'd put out a poster for the bingo, and it would have all this text on it about where it is, when it is, what's happening. And I think maybe with Instagram specifically, I don't know, but they kind of, if you've got text in a photo, it will go lower in the algorithm apparently. So that was a bit difficult, but yeah, I'd just say to have something that will bring people there, some kind of giveaway or something kind of special like that is always good.
Yeah, I think like the common theme here is just kind of general interaction with the people that are watching you, and because we were on every night for just over a week, we were able to sort of say to the people that were watching on a Tuesday night, say, right, okay, we're on tomorrow night. And because it was a world tour, we were able to say, right, so tonight we're in Paris, tomorrow we're in New York. So send us in requests let us know, like in the comments, requests that you want to hear for New York, and then I'd have the next day to learn them type thing. So that helped make it just a wee bit different than what we would normally do, and also than probably what others were doing, because it was songs that we wouldn't normally necessarily be singing, and it was what the audience kind of wanted to hear, and it kept them involved, especially during coronavirus when everyone's locked up as well. It was something that it's quite a positive thing to try and do, I think.
Definitely, yeah. Sorry, on you go, Ross.
No, I just think, like everybody said, I think having a concept is definitely a good thing, and having a plan. I mean, we found ourselves going live once without a plan, and it turned out pretty dreadful. It just seemed to just trundling on. So from then onwards, we were like, oh, we need to have some sort of rough plan. How long are we going to stay on for? Don't overdo it. And yeah, concept seems to really help.
Yeah, I think that's cool. Definitely, in terms of making it a concept and making it like a destination as opposed to something that's a bit more freeform, definitely seems to work. And also between Tidelines and Zoe, obviously there's a bit of a debate between sort of pre-record and just actually going live, and you both went for different tactics. But do you think it's more just about stacking the odds in your favour as an artist, and what works best for you?
I don't actually understand the question.
I just meant that, do you think that obviously there's a bit of a debate between whether you should do pre-recorded ones or actual live performances, and I was just wondering do you think it's individual for each artist as opposed to one size fits all type approach?
All right, yeah, no, totally. I think that it depends what you're doing. So I did the bingo, which was live, and then I did this other kind of live. It was called Zoe Graham Live-ish, which was a pre-recorded show for the EP coming out, which was great to do that because it meant that I could really work on it and make it visually quite interesting, and make it so that people would actually stay for the whole thing, because each song was like a different session that I'd filmed in different places put together, which was a lot of work. But it totally was. It was super helpful, and it actually we premiered it on YouTube, and there was a little chat box at the side, which was good fun because it felt like a gig for a minute because people were talking and people were, commenting on things that were happening in the live show. So yeah, I think it just depends what you're going for. If you want to have that live interaction, it can be quite difficult when you're looking at when you're trying to play a song and people are, there's comments coming up at the bottom. I can't multitask and read them at the same time. So that's why I find that quite stressful. But it just really depends what you're going for, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Alex, have you found that different models have worked for different people that you've been with?
Yeah, I think actually what I've seen that works best is trial and error, because I think a lot of people get so hung up on I don't know which way to do it, and I think try something, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You then know it doesn't work, and so I think both models work. Doing it pre-recorded and live. I think one thing I would always say to people is try and when you're planning your content, what leverage can you get out of one piece of content or one filming session, because there isn't anything more painful than having to do it over and over again. And so if you can do your live session and then cut that down into lots of little pieces of content that you can release on a different channel, then that'll just help your interaction and also help your peace of mind as well.
Definitely. And then Tidelines, obviously you were saying that you had that interaction with the audience where they would be requesting songs and stuff like that. Was that what worked best for you, was to really get that connection with the fans and retain that?
I think so. I think what Zoe was saying there about how difficult it is to be live and be singing and playing while people are commenting, is absolutely bang on. It can totally throw you off if you're trying to remember words to a song and someone's chatting away about something totally unrelated. It can be tricky. But I think this is not a technical point in any way, but I think a good thing to remember is look at people's names when they're commenting and messaging to you, and where they're from. A lot of people say I'm listening in Edinburgh or wherever, but it could be like all over the world. People are tuning in, and you see people that we had people in the States, people throughout Europe, and like Australia and everything coming in, and it's great to say, like once you finish, like, and just mention their names and where they're from, and they feel that's a wee personal touch, and it generates kind of conversation, because at the end of the day, although they're interacting with you, you are essentially just sitting in your house having a conversation with yourself. So it can be pretty difficult. So just interacting with what people are saying to you and using their names, I found anyway, was something that was quite helpful.
Actually, to comment on that, funny story with the bingo is that when somebody would win the bingo and cross off all of their words, the aim was that they'd shout bingo in the comments. And as the weeks kept on going by, people would join who weren't even playing, and they'd shout bingo when they hadn't won, they weren't even playing, and it would totally throw me off. Oh, it was so annoying. It was really horrible.
It's amazing that, because obviously quite often if you're doing something like that, Zoe, or like what we did, it's just a lot of the same people tune in, each time, because they've really got into it and they're enjoying it, and like you can get wee running jokes that last. So I remember one of the boys in our band got mixed up and tried to tell us that Carol Baskin had killed her husband in The Lion King. This became like everyone, or all the comments just went, "Oh my God, it's a Tiger King! Oh, brilliant!" And for like days after that, we're coming on and everyone was commenting, going, "How's the Tiger King? How's the Lion?" It was just stupid stuff like that. It really works.
Definitely. So it seems though, in the consensus of what we've got here, do you think that this has been a blessing in disguise with the live streams, and that it's given audiences a chance to get to know the artist better?
Yeah, definitely. We found that a lot of people have been commenting saying, "Oh, didn't know this about you guys," and I think for us as well, as well as the existing audience getting to know us better, we found that we managed to pull in a completely new audience through the live streaming. I mean, like mainly we just put Robert on himself, and I think we stuck him on every platform. We put him on Facebook, Instagram, and then we did TikTok. And like we found TikTok to be like the potential for discovery on TikTok is the highest at the moment, I think. So we were pulling in all these fans from the US, and there are people that probably wouldn't have seen us if it wasn't for TikTok. So so as well as existing fans getting to know us kind of more intimately, I think it was good to get some fans that we would never have had if it wasn't for live streaming.
Definitely. And I think that feeds into what Alex was saying as well, but sort of maximising the platforms and not maybe sticking to one and branching out to as many as you can. So just, sorry, were you going to say something, Robert?
No, really, I was basically just agreeing with you, but I would say that Ross was talking about the new fans there, but and there's also been a huge benefit just of the, like, for the fans that already followed us, because I'm a great believer in going out and playing live to people, but in actual fact, I think they feel more connected with us now than they ever have done, because they've had a level of personal connection with us that you couldn't possibly have if you walk on stage and do an hour show, because the interaction was so great. So so I think, yeah, as well as attracting new fans, it's also massive for just not being like a band the bands that Zoe mentioned that just kind of petered out because they didn't keep engaged with their fan base.
For sure, yeah, definitely. So as we're sort of kind of coming to the last sort of 5 minutes, I just wanted to see if we, between us all, could sort of form like obviously we've said that everything works slightly different for other people, but just to form a sort of basic checklist of what people should consider and what they should have in place prior to really starting with this. And I wanted to come to Alex first, if she doesn't mind. What would you put on that?
I'd actually really plan, but also have a goal. And I know that that's kind of a bit contradictory. So I think what Tidelines were saying about having a plan during your live content, I think is definitely the first thing. And then if it doesn't go well, then you can adapt that plan. But yeah, I would definitely say having a plan of what you're going to see, the content that you're going to follow, your backdrop, that kind of thing, would definitely be my first tip.
Cool. Zoe?
I would totally agree with Alex there. Yeah, just have a kind of concept or a theme in mind. Just make sure that you've got a nice backdrop. You know, if you can try and make the audio as good as you can. Yeah, and make like a poster for it. Do something to kind of raise awareness of it. But yeah, everything that Alex said.
Cool.
Yeah.
Robert, Ross, what are you thinking?
All of the above, but also just to remember that it is live, and that the thing that separates being live from just a pre-recorded thing is interaction with the people that are actually watching it at the time. So keep that up, like I said, and talk to people.
Cool.
Yeah, and I think if you're all on together as well, when we watch back one of the first ones, a top tip is don't fidget. You see a lot of people kind of like face touching and stuff, and keep away from the fidgeting.
Which I've been doing the whole time.
I was just I've been doing that all day.
It's hard not to when you're just staring into a mirror of yourself. But just to kind of round off, like, now that all this has happened and people have managed to form these organic bonds with their audiences and stuff, do you think that as we come out of this, or not, we're not coming out of it yet, but as things gradually get back to normal, do you think that this is only like proven how much of an important thing live music is in general?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I think that there's definitely something to be said for the fact that at the start of this, live stream gigs and live stream shows were rampant and everybody was doing them, and now they're kind of less common, and one might crop up now and again. But I think that says a lot for they're a great concept and they're very necessary just now, but yeah, they don't have the longevity that actual real life gigs do. So yeah,
definitely. So just to kind of, does anyone else get any sort of last wee sort of tips and tricks, or maybe even like a pet peeve in the live streams that they have seen that they would want people to try and avoid if they could?
Plain backgrounds, I think that was a theme.
Just avoid them at all costs.
Plain backgrounds and fidgeting. Terrible.
Yeah.
Don't do any of that.
Cool. So that's ideal then. So a complete ban on fidgeting and plain backgrounds, and that'll be us sorted. So thank you very much to all the panelists for joining me today.